So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one productivity software where you can manage everything and
Hello, Flat Earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. Still Friday for some of you, I think, but it's Saturday afternoon here in Phuket. This is Nick from Phuket Word, and I was just having some thoughts on, well, I've been writing a book. I am in the process of writing a book, so oh, that volume looks a bit low. Let's just bring that up a bit. How's that? Is that volume better? Okay. Something's happened to my chat here. Let's just see. Glenn Souch, hello there. Yeah, okay. Am I seeing the chat in there? Okay, got the YouTube channel back up. Okay, right. I want to see the chat. I've forgotten how to see the chat in OBS, so I'll be kind of switching between the two here. Chilling, hello. Okay, is the sound a bit better now, Glenn? Yeah, I'm kind of having to... I've got a good mic. It's my daughter's, actually. She uses it for singing. But, oh, hang on, yeah, maybe I can boost this. That's probably a bit better. How are we doing there? Let's turn this up. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right. Damn. Okay. How do I see the chat? Hang on a second, let me work this out. I don't want to do that. Talk about being prepared. I was prepared. Anyway, let's not waste too much time. I mean, yeah, so basically in the process of writing the book, so it's good to share some of the things that I'm talking about. Obviously, especially with everything that's going on, I mean, a lot of the time you end up talking about stuff we already know, but what's really important here is to keep that information coming out. Obviously, you know, if you have a YouTube channel, you'll know that your older videos rarely get any views. It's a case of keeping current, isn't it? So you know, it's important to get that information out there and help people understand why the heliocentric model, for example, comes into question, and understand that, as we always say, that the whole model is based on looking up at the sky, and the globe is not something that was measured or seen to have curvature. It's just a model to represent what's seen happening in the sky. And of course, the globe is essential if you have a heliocentric model. Yeah. And really all that goes with that is a bunch of scientific explanations. And the longer you do this for, the clearer it becomes that that's all anyone has got is a bunch of scientific explanations, especially when it comes to the distance to the sun and things like that. Yeah. So really they've got the modern globe Earth model, and that's part and parcel of the heliocentric theory, a solar system in which the Earth is assumed to be another spherical planet orbiting the sun. Okay, we all kind of know the story of the Copernican model, and it's funny, isn't it, because when you look at this, when you look back at this, when you start looking into, you know, how heliocentrism came about, there's just one or two people in history that are responsible for this, that may or may not have even existed in the first place. Yeah. So This is something that we're obviously told and told repeatedly, just like any other story from history. Such and such did this, so and so did that. But you find out, for example, that people such as Newton, for example, were very, very influential. They had connections to royalty, and they did other things. In fact, the way, if you look at Newton's history, for example, a lot of what he did was all about standardization. Yeah, he was he created the gold standard and things like that. So, someone like Newton, again, if he even existed, has been hugely influential in many, many aspects of globalism, for want of a better word. Yeah, it's the same as, for example, you look at things built by Isambard Kingdom Brunel. There's loads of bridges and lots of different things. There's a few famous ones, but there's a few unknown ones as well. And you wonder, how can someone do so much in a lifetime? And that's not to attempt to discredit anyone, but then sometimes it's just that you see a name ascribed to something, or an idea, an invention, a theory, and you wonder if that's really true. Yeah. So, hello, Alan. Hello, Lightning 300 miles. All right. Yeah. Okay, I'm doing some switching backwards and forwards here to look at the live stream. I can't remember, like I said. But anyway, forgive me if I don't notice you, but I will eventually. So, what kind of also interests me about your modern heliocentrist, or global, shall we say? Of course, we had a geocentric model a long time ago. Yeah. What did they assume? Well, they just assumed that Earth is a globe as well, we're told. But the sun and the moon are close, and so are the stars, and everything goes around the Earth. Yeah. Again, so there's nothing really fundamentally different in terms of what's observed. This is one real important point to drive home, I suppose, isn't it? That we all observe the same thing, whether it's been geocentrism, heliocentrism, or flat Earth. The predictions of what we see in the sky don't change. They are always the same. And of course, many of the arguments you get from people assume that the globe model predicts everything, and geocentrism or flat Earth doesn't make the same predictions, but it does. We're all relying on the same things, the same observations in the sky. But of course, the fundamental difference between flat Earth and geocentrism and heliocentrism is the geocentrists and the heliocentrists were looking up in the sky, making predictions maybe, and then creating theories based on celestial mechanics and things like that. But with the flat Earth, well, we're actually taking the Earth itself, and when it's measured, or anything is done on or above the Earth, it's treated as level and stationary. It is measurably level, isn't it? And we can also understand that celestial navigation, the coordinate system, is all born from a level plane. And it's so when it comes to looking at the stars and the moon and sun, then really that's a perspective model. It's actually taking that understanding and knowledge that the Earth is level and stationary, and the knowledge of how perspective works. Yeah, if you have a globe, you could say you're ignoring perspective, but actually they're replacing perspective with the geometry. They're using geometry to describe perspective about the way we see things and applying it to a globe model. Yeah. So I got some I got some little slides down here prepared, and you can see that Jupiter is up there, and Jupiter's obviously a really easy planet to see. So this, of course, was something that even someone like Galileo with his crummy telescopes back then could see, and see the moons. You'll see, just as a point of interest, you'll see that this particular one has everything going diagonally, whereas when I look at Jupiter from Phuket, I'm seeing this kind of more, if you imagine that image on the screen, if you imagine turning it, well, I'm not 100% sure whether it should be clockwise or anti-clockwise, depending on which moons are going to end up on the top or the bottom. But what I saw the other night was more of a kind of, I should do it the opposite way to what it's facing on the image there. So it's that way kind of thing. So with some of the moons pointing to like 1 or 2 o'clock, and the other moons pointing to about 6 or 7 o'clock. So the orientation is different from me. I just saw Effed Up World looking at the moon and Jupiter. I think he's got some tracking hardware and software now. So his view of Jupiter was slightly different to mine, but he's based in the US, I think. Obviously not Phuket. So anyway, of course, this is one of the excuse me, one of the first things that's cited is that Galileo saw Jupiter and saw moons. So one of the really important points I suppose to make here is that excuse me, the globe and the heliocentric model is based on deductive reasoning and correlation. But these two things are not any kind of proof of cause, yeah? Even with the TFE guys going off to Antarctica to see if they can see a 24-hour sun, there's no mention of actual curvature. There's no attempt to measure the curvature or difference in the angle of change in angle or horizontal or vertical that you should experience going these great distances across it. I mean, there's one guy going from the UK, from Australia, and the US. So I know it's not easy to actually conduct measurements on a plane journey, but this is the thing, isn't it? You've got just this kind of deductive reasoning that would lead people to assume that certain things are only possible on a globe and not possible on a flat Earth. Yeah. Just have a quick look at the chat and see who's saying what there. Hello, Blood. Good to see you. Glenn South says, I thought ancient Babylonians thought the Earth was flat, stationary, and central. Yeah, I mean, obviously, what we're told and the kind of the history that's repeated. Hello, Alan, by the way, Nostrand. How do we really know what they thought? What did the Greeks really think? We know that history has been rewritten and it's just been repeated so often. And of course, by the time the internet came along, so we can look these things up, a lot of these things were already kind of established so-called fact, weren't they? So, yeah, I don't know, to be honest, Glenn, whether they really thought it was flat or a globe. We're told, oh, the geocentric model was a globe model. Well, yeah, we don't know, do we? But I can imagine that. Well, when you hear about the Copernican revolution, I mean that must have been mental. It might well have. You imagine it might well have been like the whole kind of anti-establishment protests and marches and things that have been going on or went on during the Jibby Jab drive. There might have been people on the streets protesting. We wouldn't know. We wouldn't hear about that, would we? But they do call it a revolution, so I'm sure it upset a lot of people at the time. Yeah. Hey, Blood. I said hello already. I think you've got some good equipment there, haven't you? So, Alan Norstrand, the final observation is a waste of time and money. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, in fact, one video I want to do soon is just to kind of put forth an idea for a modern day Bedford Levels experiment, yeah, where we use a drone and we maybe have some vehicles going along the side. I think you've got 6 to 8 miles of water there on the Bedford Levels, So you could use that as your thing. Do something similar where you set a drone off, make it go in a straight line, and by the time it gets from one end to the other, there should be at least a 6-foot difference if you can get the drone to go straight. And if you had some kind of car or something going alongside the canal, I don't know if that's possible, but that would be another level reference. Yeah, I think I'd like to kind of put an experiment package together, kind of try and cover all the bases. In contact with a few other people at the moment, we might be able to come up with a method, at least. I mean, I'm not anywhere near the Bedford levels at the moment, but this is something that would be good to put across as a, as an experiment that anyone could do if they had the resources, like a drone and just some other equipment, where they might be prepared to mess around with the water or something like that. You've got 2 drones, Alan. Wow. Okay. What's that, Blood? The sun appears to take a straight path on the equinoxes. How does that work with a circling sun? Yeah. I mean, for me on the equator, it takes a pretty straight path. One video I put out several years ago where you do see the sun just start to veer off as it's setting, so it does seem to follow some kind of path there. But again, when comparing that to how you see the sun in the UK, and if you take perspective into account, it's really, really difficult to actually know whether you are on the inside or the outside of the sun's orbit above a level Earth, when you're in the north of the equator or south of the equator or on the equator. So yeah, for me, the sun goes overhead, and it's the way you see the sun rise and set in somewhere like the UK. It kind of does this arch. It's again, perspective is obviously a huge part of it as well, but there's nothing to assume that it's caused by the Earth turning, is there? Oh, have you, Blood? You've been to the Bedford levels a few times. All right. Just to look around, or actually done some measurements there? Okay. INFE, hello there. The sun does not stop going north or south just because it is at the equator. What? The sun does not stop going north or south? Okay, I'm not sure what you mean. I mean, okay, we know the east and west thing, but do you mean, okay, maybe you want to elaborate on that a little bit more? Yeah? I'm not exactly sure what you mean there. Yeah. But okay, as far as the TFE goes, just tuned into a couple of the live streams from Jaren and Witsit, and I mean, they're there now, and in a way they've got some good reasoning, and it's like, well, okay, there's an understanding that obviously the whole kind of premise was a false dichotomy, but they are going in a way to make that observations themselves and confirm any observations that are made. Obviously, if those globers went all on their own and made some videos or made some claims, then of course there would be a lot more contention about whether it was real or not. And I think actually, in a way, it, for some of these globers to meet the flat earthers face to face, and for them to, they're surely going to have times when they're together or sat at the same table or something like that. They can talk about these things face to face rather than some kind of online debate, which is always difficult because you end up, cutting each other off. And I saw some kind of online debate going on the other day, last night, and it's just like, I think it was on, I can't remember what channel it was, but there was like 6 or 7 people, and it was just, couldn't stand it. Couldn't stand it. 2 or 3 people chatting and giving each other the space and time to talk is great, but when you get more than that, it just gets nuts. No one gets a word in. In that sense, it's good because the globers are always quite mean, and they do that because they've got the safety of being separated by hundreds or thousands of miles behind a screen. But now they're going to have to sit down together, take planes together, sit in and eat together. And so, there will be, the flat earthers can hold the glober's feet to the fire a bit more, maybe. Yeah. So it'd be good in that sense. This is all about the human element. This is the whole thing, isn't it? This whole debate is because we're humans. If we were any other kind of creature, we wouldn't be arguing about it. And in a way, we're very privileged to have the time. I mean, think about people that are in war-torn places. They're not thinking about whether the Earth is flat or a globe. They don't have that luxury. So if you're in a position where you can actually dedicate some time and some thought and some resources to this, then that's great, And money is wasted on much worse things than a few people taking a flight to Antarctica. So yeah, it's cool, and you can't stop or ignore these things. They happen. So okay, let's see what comes of it. Yeah. Of course, we just don't like the baiting and the kind of the it's you're with us or you're not. It's either a globe or it's this, and it's like, no, that's just silly, really. That's kind of, but because we're beyond that, we're open to all sorts of possibilities. Yeah, but that's it. That's one thing about, for example, one conversation I've had with Will Duffy in my chats under one of my videos was that he's a heliocentrist. Okay, there's no question in these guys' minds whether it's a geocentric model or the sun is close or not, and things like that. As far as they're concerned, they are fixed and stuck in this heliocentric model. Not just the globe, but the heliocentric model as well. So the sun has to be massive. The sun has to be really far away. Yeah, and the planets and the stars, they all have to be. Yeah, it's all part of it. Yeah. So, right. Let's. So, motorbikes screaming by. Okay. So yeah, I mean, basically, in all of these different models, they're all based on looking at the sky. But the only model that has any actual solid ground is the flat Earth, because we're on solid level ground. Yeah. So it's funny, isn't it? Heliocentrism, geocentrism, it's all based on looking up in the sky. Flat Earth is, well, nothing changes as far as the observations go. They are the same, but you understand that perspective affects what we see, and it's all done from a level surface, and it all works absolutely fine. Yeah. So that's the only significant difference. And so in a way, the flat Earth is on a winner already, because we've got measurements that are done on the ground. And that includes the water and things like the Bedford levels and just the way it works. Yeah, there's it's obviously level. What's going up in the sky is unknown. So yeah, this kind of idea of deductive reasoning. I think the deductive reasoning problem is one of the main reasons that the glober thinks they're smart, because they've never, ever, ever been shown any proper proof or measurements that the Earth is a spinning globe. It's all from deductive reasoning, based on the presupposition that we are another planet, which again was just a necessity of the heliocentric model, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Let me just kind of. So I was going to go through these arguments. So one of the first scientific explanations with Jupiter was that this is back in the 1600s. Galileo was reported he saw that Jupiter had moons orbiting it, and that Venus orbited the sun. So, okay, geocentrism, as far as I understand, assumed that the planets go around the Earth, or the wandering stars go around the Earth. But in this case, heliocentrism, they're saying that the planets now go around the sun. And so apparently Galileo was able to confirm this with his little telescope, looking up and seeing moons around Jupiter. So, of course, it's then assumed that, again, this is this deductive reasoning and correlation that, we have a moon, so the moon must be orbiting us. Yeah? And we all know the argument about, well, if I have a snooker table, it doesn't, or a table, it doesn't, whatever, it doesn't, or a light bulb, it doesn't mean that everything's round. that's beneath me as well. Yeah. So that's that basically. That's all they've got for in terms of that, looking up at the sky, and that was the single most fundamental confirmation of heliocentrism, basically, as opposed to geocentrism. That, oh, Jupiter's got moons and everything appears to be going around the sun, or we can at least create a model where the other planets are going around the sun rather than going around the Earth. And of course, when you have a geocentric model, it's very pretty, it's very nice. We see those patterns that we see in nature. Yeah. So let me just get on to that. And so the next one, of course, we've all heard it as well, is all about the lunar eclipses. Yeah, so they say we see a circular shadow on the moon during lunar eclipses, and that means that the globe Earth is casting a shadow on the moon. So, I mean, what can you say about that, really? Well, again, it's just a skyward observation. And it's funny, when you consider that everything in the sky is circular anyway, well, could it not be something else that's circular, that's going across the moon or between the Earth and the moon? And all the ancient cultures as well, I mean, including Thailand and the Ayurvedic astronomy, and basically the Asian Oriental astronomy, all talk about Rahu and other things up there. And again, you know, heliocentrism was, I'm going to come to that question later on, but one of the things that solidified the heliocentrism apparently was being able to predict the movements or the positions of planets that weren't previously seen. The thing is, way before people like Newton and his ilk were trying to determine where we live, people in other ancient cultures had already noted that there were other planets. So it wasn't necessarily a new discovery. I don't have that to cite at the moment, and again, it's just something that you can do with your own research. And actually, I think Newton spent some time in Asia, so these guys came over to Asia at some point, I think, and they would have got hold of some information that they possibly didn't know. And of course, they were then able to go back to place somewhere like the UK, where nobody had any idea then about what the other ancient cultures thought. And they could say, oh, look, well, we predict that you'll be able to see Pluto or Uranus or whatever it was. Yeah. But that may well have been known to ancients who didn't adhere to a heliocentric model, or had their own models, or maybe didn't have a model. And this is a thing. Yeah, when it comes to flat Earth, we're not trying to make a model. We're trying to get away from models, aren't we? Yeah. The modeling is simply just making those predictions about what we might see in the sky, and then you know, making some assumptions off that. Alrighty. Yeah. So basically what I did just to prepare for this one was I just went and looked at the mainstream things that are said. You know, if someone's looking for how the globe or heliocentrism came about, what are the proofs, then, you know, you get some very flimsy explanations. And again, it's all this appeal to authorities that may or may not have existed in the past. Okay, so that was there we have the lunar eclipse. So next one is about the star constellations. So basically, you know, the main thing when it comes to the star constellations for the globe is that we see different star constellations in different locations on the Earth. That's it. Okay, so they're assuming that the stars are hidden by Earth curve. Again, I'm not saying anything new that a lot of you already know, but it's important to get it out there and hear the arguments or counter explanations, if any. Yeah. So of course, this made them then, the heliocentrists, assume that the stars are millions and millions of miles away. But that's, I mean, it's crazy, really. Every star is millions of miles away from Earth and millions of miles away from each of the other stars as well. Again, not with any proof of anything, except that it would have to be that way. Just as you have to have a globe if you assume that the sun is at the center, you have to have stars that are millions of miles away, because otherwise you wouldn't get any constellations. So how do these constellations maintain their consistent places in the sky and their regular appearances. Yeah. So, I mean, not being able to see the stars is really easily explainable, isn't it? On a flat Earth as well, they're local, so you just don't see them until you're closer to them. It's like, it's not an argument really. So the star argument is out of the window as far as the heliocentrists go. All right. There's our heliocentric model. Just have a quick look at the chat there, see what's happening there. Whoa, okay. Auto hoax. They say that under the South Pole, stationed deep underground, the temperature is minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Why would it be so cold? The whole concept of an igloo in North America would be of no use in Antarctica. Oh, interesting. I don't know much about that. I know there's a big underground base there. It's something crazy, like 2 kilometers underground or something like that. I remember doing researching the GNOME experiment, and that was one of the things that came up. Hi, Tony Dixon. Oh, Ketu, that's right. I was trying to remember it. Thank you, Tony. Rahu for the sun and Ketu for the moon. Yes, okay. So these are kind of like 2 nodes, aren't they? Yeah. Again, who knows what's actually going on? I mean, are we on a flat Earth that does have something going underneath, or are things circling? What are they doing? Oh, we don't know. We just don't know. So yeah, INFE. There is no crisscrossing light from the sun like the diagram shows, where light attempts to take the same space. Interference, photon scattering occurs. Oh, are you talking about... where was it? This one? Yeah. I mean, again, I should have highlighted that, this ridiculous illustration. And again, of course, what we're always given is illustrations like this. No actual observations from space. They're all done from Earth. But yeah, you have a sun where the light is being focused like that on the moon. I mean, on the Earth. And then the Earth shadow is not... You know, it's funny, isn't it? Because the heliocentrism assumes that light travels in parallel lines. But when they go and draw some illustration for how lunar eclipses are supposed to work, then we've got these shadows doing something that they wouldn't do. They're breaking their own rules, which they always seem quite happy to do. Yeah. So yeah, these are the contradictions you notice, aren't they? That's the thing. When you're being truly scientific, then you see these contradictions. Then it's like, well, hang on, which one are you actually going to stick with? You can't move the goalpost, something that they're always accusing the flat earthers of doing. But that's what they do every time they come up with a different explanation or argument, because you'll see that the explanations contradict each other, or arguments contradict each other. Okay. So, yeah. Where were we? I was already on my list. Hang on a second. Okay, number 4. Oops. Let me just get that. We were talking about the stars and the solar system. Yeah. Okay. Scientists such as Johannes Kepler, Galileo and Isaac Newton reportedly used the heliocentric model to make and calculate precise movements of planets around the sun. Okay, again, we kind of just talked about that. So, you know, they had their model, they presupposed a model, and then said, oh, we can predict this and that. Yeah, but again, that doesn't make any difference about what you can actually predict. It doesn't matter what model you assume to start with, the predictions are always the same. Yeah. So an argument that you'll often get is, I like this one, hang on, let me just change the photograph here. This one. This is one of the most ridiculous excuses out there, isn't it? Yeah, I'm sure you know what this is referring to. So you'll often hear that, well, the Earth is so big that it just looks flat to us humans. Well, of course, you could get away with that if humans couldn't actually get up into the air. But we can, can't we? We can get miles and miles and miles up into the air. And of course, this was one of the first things that flat earthers were doing. We're getting the balloons and looking into that footage. And we see that, well, it doesn't make any difference how high you go. The horizon's always there. So that is out of the window. Yeah, totally out of the window. But again, people are so hardwired and conditioned to think that they see a horizon and that's their evidence of curvature. Yeah. But again, no scientist anywhere ever has actually challenged or questioned this assumption. No one ever. Yeah. So again, with the Bedford levels, 6 to 8 miles. A curvature or a drop of 6 feet, surely someone somewhere who wanted to go against the narrative at the time, who was an anti-revolutionary, an anti-heliocentric revolutionary, went and actually measured the curvature, did they not? Yeah, should be very, very easy. Again, at a fraction of the cost of going down to Antarctica. Yeah. Now just looking at the chats again. Waldeck, hello. Andres, hello there. Love Kung Fu, hello. Alright, okay. Good. INFE, the camp is... Okay, you're talking about the camp. Yeah. Alright. So yeah, ridiculous when you can actually go way above the Earth. A ridiculous argument. It just shouldn't... again, there should be some logic employed there. And even some deductive reasoning. You can't just say that it looks flat because it's a ball and because we're so small. Yeah, we might well be ants on the surface of a ball, but we can also get much, much higher above it. Yeah, so even when Jeff Bezos goes up into space with William Shatner and co, they still see a flat horizon. And they still come down without the Earth spinning beneath them. Yeah. So let's move on to the next. I got 9 here, so we're getting through them. Jet streams. This is another one that in my brief look online, told me that jet streams are proof that we live on a globe and the proof that it's spinning. Okay, so jet streams and hurricanes either side of the equator are assumed to be a consequence of the Earth being a spinning globe. Well, of course, there's all sorts you could argue against that. Well, first of all, there's no other measure of rotation. Again, they're using... You couldn't even really call this deductive reasoning. We got jet streams, so that means the Earth is spinning. And they go in different directions as well, right? They're not all going in the same direction. But considering that the sun and the moon go over the equator for the most part, or between the tropics, the fact that they are moving would create some kind of vortex, yeah? So they talk about hurricanes circling in different directions either side of the equator, along with the whole kind of toilet flushing story. How many of you tried flushing a toilet when you started hearing questioning the heliocentric model? I tried it. Yeah, my water bill shot up when I got into flat Earth because I was testing it. Of course, there's nothing that you can conclude at all from flushing the toilet. Oh dear. Yeah. So you know how, for example, when an aircraft goes through the air and you see these these vortexes coming off either side of the wing, the underside and the upper side, they're going in different directions. So when something cuts through the air or disturbs the air, then you get these vortexes. So when the sun is going through, a local sun is going through, heating up the land and the air beneath it maybe, this is all having an effect on the air currents, and to me that's a perfectly reasonable explanation that the passage of the sun through the air, whatever you want to call it, the aether, then that is creating a disturbance. Yeah. So there's not only ever one explanation for these things, but of course if you're a heliocentrist, then there is only one explanation and you have to stick to it. So yeah, this is when you come up with contradictions as well about does the air stick to the Earth or not? Well, as far as I can tell, the air moves freely above the Earth, but then you'll sometimes have arguments where they say, well, the air sticks to the atmosphere sticks to the Earth, the globe Earth, as it spins. But this is a contradiction in their arguments as well, moving the goalposts once more. Yeah. So on to number 7. All right. This is a screenshot taken from what was it? Can't remember the name of the website. You know, anyway, doesn't matter. Can't remember. Sorry, I would say if I remember. They say that artillery gunners must correct for rotation of the Earth as the shell flies through the air above the surface. Okay, so yeah, very common argument, and a lot of us would have already looked into this. And okay, the theory might be there again based on the presupposition, but in reality, that doesn't change. And the fact is that, you know, they just say that it's a possible deflection, a possible reason for deflection, but again, with wind and all sorts of other things, even with refraction, diffraction, whatever, if you're going for a long target, are you really going to see exactly where it is? And even if you're a minuscule degree off, then obviously the further your projectile is going, the wider off that path is going to get. So a tiny fraction of a difference in your accuracy here when you're firing is obviously going to get larger and larger and further afield, just because of the minuscule difference in angles. So it's not something that you can ever determine in reality. It's just theoretically something that you might have to compensate for if you find that you miss the first time, which is kind of highly likely if you're doing some shooting. Again, it's a non-argument. So far, we got all these explanations which are not in any way to do with our practical reality. They are just excuses for a model. Yeah. So of course, on top of that, then, you know, we've got the fact that pilots don't have to compensate for curvature or spin. So while you might claim that a projectile goes over the Earth and the Earth moves freely beneath it, as well as the Foucault's pendulum, well, that doesn't happen with a hot air balloon, doesn't happen with a helicopter. No pilot traveling thousands and thousands of miles has to do any kind of adjustment whatsoever for any assumed curvature or spin or Coriolis. None of that happens to anything else that can be measured on or above the Earth. Yeah. So again, it's just a contradiction. So these arguments are contradictory. So we know that navigational equipment as well, inertial navigation, is based on establishing level to start with gyroscopes that have their rigidity in space. There's no way whatsoever that there would be a reason for a gyroscope to follow gravity, even if that was the case. A gyroscope wouldn't just stay. It wouldn't follow gravity. You can set up the gyroscope in any direction you want, and it will stay there, right? It might precess, yes, but that's nothing to do with gravity per se, is it? Doesn't mean it's pointing down towards or it's even being pushed by anything that's taking it towards the center of an imaginary spherical Earth. All right. 32 watching right now. Thank you for coming in, all of you. Please do make sure you subscribe and hit the like. I hate saying that stuff, but you know how it is. We are getting majorly suppressed. You put flat Earth into YouTube as a search term, and you'll never get flat Earth videos. Yeah, you'll always get anti-flat Earth videos. And just as a sidetrack, you know, one thing that's obviously becoming very clear, or it's been clear for a long time, right, is that these so-called debunkers aren't ever debunking. You know, these well-known YouTubers that are debunking flat Earth, they only do it because it gets them good numbers, gets them lots of subscribers. Most of them quite possibly bots or AI, just supporting the algorithm and being paid to do so. But they never debunk anything, because all they do is just say, that's stupid, that's ridiculous, that doesn't fit with, you know, the official narrative. And if you point out some of these contradictions, then you're just an idiot. Yeah. So that's all they can ever do. Is that honourable? Here's all you guys doing experiments, doing research, questioning it, asking, well, what is the truth? You know, using your discernment and understanding that we're all fallible human beings, yeah. But then on the globe side, all they're ever doing is just doing hit pieces, twisting your words, making fun. So that's one of the main reasons this is still going as well, because of their reactions. I think if Globers hadn't reacted so adversely with their cult-like behavior, Flat Earth might not have taken off. But because they were jumping all over it and making such a fuss and a song and dance about it, well, it just makes you want to carry on. So, well, why? Why do you feel this way? Why are you so triggered? If you're so triggered, just produce the proof and be done with it. Yeah, but always the same, looking up at the sky, making these assumptions, yeah, saying we know because we just read some books in school. Oh, Professor Phil, he's in here for more punishment. Psh. Okay. Yes, we know, Professor Phil, we know it's in the gunnery manuals, which are theoretical. And besides, any corrections you would have to make over such a short distance, at a rapid time, at such a short time that an artillery shell is, again, this highlights the stupidity and the lack of discernment and the hard-headedness and the bigotry, yeah, Phil, so-called Professor Phil, yeah? When you come back with claims like that after all these years, yeah, without doing any testing or anything like that, you come back with that, you know that that's a ridiculous argument. Why do you keep using it? This is the definition of craziness, yeah? You're saying the same thing, throwing the same shit at the wall, thinking it will stick. It won't. Yeah? Water off a duck's back, mate. Yeah? Oh, all right, you're going to bring out conservation of momentum as well, Professor Phil. Brilliant. We got that one on the cards next. Okay. Okay. All right, I'll let the chat deal with Phil for now. Hello, Nuevo Laredo. It's unethical, especially with children being bullied online. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but yeah. Now, here we go. The laws of motion. Right. I'll get to it now. So you can see here, we've got the laws of motion. And you're probably all very familiar with them now. Okay. So, one thing here is that, okay, it's great to be able to describe things, and fair enough. Okay, that's mostly true. But then, the one thing Newton apparently did was he assumed that the laws of motion apply to everything. Yeah, so an apple falls on the guy's head, and this apparently tells us the physics of orbital mechanics and all that. Everything from the Earth all the way to outer space. Yeah, I mean, what are you actually doing? Okay, you're conflating mass and time to it, because all anyone's ever doing is measuring the time, the passage of time. Okay. Yeah, this is, hang on, where are we? Okay, sorry, I'm just reading my own notes here. Sorry, I'm just scrolling down. Okay. Yeah, so the argument, or what we're told is an excuse, that and this is again from official sources. This is places like the BBC or Space or NASA or whatever, just kind of brought these together just to say what they're saying and how ridiculous it is. This is what they're teaching our kids. So they say that we don't feel the spinning globe Earth's motion because everything on the planet, including the air we breathe, is moving with the Earth at the same constant speed, making the motion imperceptible. It's like being on a smoothly moving train where you don't feel the movement if you're not looking outside. Now, this is ridiculous. Really, really ridiculous. Okay, we, of course, understand and we can relate to a train moving in one direction, yeah? Okay, and then there's this conservation of momentum, right? This actually goes against the artillery argument. So, remember they're saying that everything, including the air, moves with the Earth. But then the other argument we just looked at was that artillery travels beneath a spinning Earth. The Earth spins beneath the artillery, but it doesn't spin beneath aircraft. Yeah, so all these contradictions here with these facts, but you won't ever have a glober concede to one of these facts being a moot point because the contradictions have been pointed out to them, do you? You never get that. They'll still stick to these illogical, impractical, unscientific explanations. Yeah, this is another problem with the globers. Everything's compartmentalized. When you've looked at this on a whole, you say, okay, you remember that idea, you remember that explanation. Okay, they said this, but then they say that. Okay, well, they don't marry up. They're not cohesive. So, and then you try to ask, well, which one is it? And no one will give you a straight answer. No one ever. So this again leads to the understanding that heliocentrism and the globe is just a cult belief, because you never get a straight answer from NASA or anyone else. But we've got flight data, radar, navigational equipment, gyroscopes, etc. They all show that the Earth is demonstrably impractical, a level stationary plane. Yeah, for all intents and purposes. Okay, so yeah, well, the train argument is ridiculous because linear motion is not the same as circular motion, is it? To say that we don't feel any motion of a spinning Earth because of conservation of momentum with linear motion is absolutely ridiculous, because circular motion is, of course, acceleration. You are constantly changing direction, so you would constantly feel this difference. It's not the same. They are totally opposite things. They do not go in the same bag. Yeah. All right. So it's crazy. This is an official source to say, well, you don't feel movement on a spinning globe, which is kind of essentially accelerating all the time, because of conservation of momentum of something going in a linear direction at a constant velocity. Huh? So yeah, this is where there is a distinct difference between acceleration and constant velocity. Yeah, which is also a kind of sticking point for me, bone of contention for me when it comes to talking about a rising Earth. Yeah, if conservation of momentum is a thing, which it seems to be, then once things are going, I mean, it's kind of true that once things are put in motion, whatever force is used to put them in motion, then they will continue in that motion. Yeah. So that's why I have that problem with, if you're assuming that you're talking about inertia and the Earth rising to create weight. Well, this is the kind of thing I have when you look at reality. It's like, well, there is conservation of momentum, and so if things are heavy because of momentum and its constant velocity, well, it doesn't kind of fit because then you don't have weight really in that opposite direction once things are going. So yeah, to lift something up and then for it to fall, and that's what happens. But if you assume that weight is caused by a constant velocity of the Earth going in a single direction, then what's happened to that conservation of momentum? The things on the Earth would have been given momentum, and so their momentum would be conserved, so they wouldn't instantly fall. Yeah, this, and they wouldn't have weight in your hands because you've brought them. They're in motion with you. So, this is the one sticking point with me, which doesn't really, work with me, based on our practical reality, as far as I can tell. Yeah. Okay. So, where are we? So the laws of motion there. All right. And okay. So we're on to this one now about the whole sun thing. So, number 9, which is my final one here, Newton assumed that the laws of motion apply to everything on Earth as well as the orbital motions of celestial objects, which we kind of discussed just now. So basically an apple falls on his head, and that's apparently how the planets rotate as well, or orbit the sun. Newton's theory of gravity assumed that the strength of the force of gravity depends on the mass of the object and the distance of other objects or planets from it. So, this is, I think, the main reason why the sun, assumed to be a gaseous object, has to be mega massive in the heliocentric model, because it has to have enough mass. Remember, Newton was part of proving the heliocentric model, or confirming it. So of course, with his definition of physics and mass and gravity, then you have to have a massive sun that has so much mass that it's able to pull the other planets around at these great distances. And of course, however that heavy the Earth would be, trillions and trillions of tons anyway, then of course in your heliocentric model you're going to have a massive sun, if that's how your gravity works. Yeah, it's just, again, the globe itself, the spinning globe, is a consequence of the model, and the massive sun is a consequence of the model. This, of course, is not in any way how we experience the sun. Nothing at all about the way we see sun and the sunlight would make us assume that it's millions of miles away. Nothing. It's just this essential piece of the model. Yeah. So that's a shame, really, isn't it? Because this is hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but science has probably been well held back because of all these theories. When I look at you look at what's going on now with the electric cars. Just think about this: if someone was really interested in helping humanity, and they had the power and influence to do so, then of course they would introduce water-powered cars. But the whole thing with electric cars, especially Elon's electric cars, is just the same as with Apple hardware. With an Apple, you get an Apple piece of hardware, you've got to have the Apple charger, you've got to have the Apple ear pods or whatever they are. Yeah, you've got to have their stuff. You can't use other stuff, other things. Yeah. Well, this is just a business model. We'll sell you something which you don't just buy once. You've got to buy all these parts for it all the time, and that's exactly the same with the cars. Yeah. All it is a business model, which is a form of enslavement, because once you get those electric cars, then you're of course relying on their own electric infrastructure. Yeah, it's the same. So rather than doing something beneficial to humanity and using a much less power to generate hydrogen gas from water, which you could do once the car is going, you instead use batteries to power the whole car and create this industry of dependence. Yeah, so no one's doing us any favor with electric cars. Yeah. Side point, really, that wasn't it? Yeah. And that has reminded me that I have forgotten to share this on Twitter. So give me a second while I just do this. Share on Twitter that we are live. Yeah, okay. Bum, bum, bum. That's that done. Okay. Right, what else have we got in the chat? Oh, no one special. Hello. Let me just go up a bit. Okay. INFE says the AE map is accurate for time and location. Yeah, it works fine, doesn't it? Yeah, it really does. And again, we all know that it's a map. I mentioned this the other day, but it's really funny when you see the Globers trying to debunk the AE map by basically putting a ruler on the AE map where it gets wider and saying, look, the distances are greater. And it's like, oh my God. You've just shown that you don't really understand maps, yeah? But yeah, I mean, obviously the time, the meridians and everything like that, it's there. And again, this is what they do. The Globies will do this gotcha thing, won't they? With, well, why don't you make a flight plan, or you make some predictions based on your flat Earth model, while your without using the globe Earth coordinates. And of course they're assuming that the coordinates, the longitude and latitude, is only possible with the globe. It's like, no, it's just you chose a central location was chosen, the North Pole, or two poles were chosen, and a meridian was chosen. You got GMT, yeah. Of course, what we're going against here is the whole, the whole center of establishment here, yeah. But historically, these guys have controlled the narrative, so they've even decided where the world's times start and stop, and that's political, purely political. Just like maps are political, time zones are political, yeah. It makes a difference to your world's finances if you can, or your country's finances, if you can be opening your stock exchange ahead of someone else, right? Another sidetrack. I saw an interesting clip from a farmer showing a ton of barley. So a ton of barley, he's got a trailer full of barley, and he was saying this costs about, 30 quid. It's about 30 quid's worth of barley. But by the time it's been turned into alcohol, and the government have taken their taxes on the alcohol, that 1 ton of barley that might make the farmer £30 ends up making the government something in the region of £21,000. Yeah, the markup. Yeah, so again, this is just part of the system, keeping, for example, farmers tied in. That they're paying the farmers a pittance for their produce, and they're making massive profits off it. So everything done by these people is for profit, and that includes having us think we're on a globe with time zones and things like that. Yeah, doesn't it keeps us trapped, it keeps us working, it keeps us doing all these things for their monetary system, and paying all these taxes. We're just trapped in it. Yeah, and that's the thing with a lot of these anti-flat Earth debunking channels. Yeah, they're also trapped. They're feeding the beast. They're not doing anything honourable. They found a job where they can make money from making fun of people without even addressing the things that flat earthers say. They're just saying, "Oh, that's stupid. Ha ha ha," pointing and laughing. I mean, I just don't consider that an honourable way to make a living. Yeah. Okay, Nuvo Laredo, you were talking about the fake debunked videos and trolls. Okay. And INFE, all the stars moved to the... Okay. Nuhe Special. So, Phuket, how do you explain the counter-rotating star trails of the north and south celestial poles on a flat Earth? Again, first of all, you're looking at the sky, making assumptions about what the sky is. Okay. That's ridiculous. That's not something you can ever know. Okay. And it's something that we've all looked at, and you just use your common sense. Well, it's ridiculous that we have to explain these things. It just depends which way you're looking at it. You look at a fan or the ceiling, a fan on the ceiling. You look at one part of it from one direction, it's going to go in left to right. You turn around and look in the other direction, even though the fan is still going round and round in the same circle, it's then going from right to left. Yeah, it's like, oh dear, this is so simple. Again, this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, that someone would come along and say, how do you explain that, as if you've got some kind of proof for the globe, just because depending on which way you look and which side of the equator you're on, the stars are going to appear to be rotating in a different direction. It's just insane. It's such a stupid, ridiculous, asinine argument. Yeah? So now I see, INFE, while you were saying all stars move east to west, I saw the question after that. Yeah? Okay. Lev Kung Fu Shaolin says, I have 24-hour southern sun cycles in my FE research. Yeah. Again, this wasn't... this whole final observation thing. Yeah, I honestly never looked into it that hard. And honestly never thought it was part of it was an essential thing. for this. I must admit, I was surprised when I did start looking into what Jeren was saying, and then as far as Jeren was concerned, he'd never looked at any other model or never assumed that there was anything other than the AE map. Yeah, so I was surprised, and it's like, oh, what? In all this time you've never looked at that? But okay, that's his bag, and whatever. But yeah, that was like, yeah, it was just strange and kind of surprising, I suppose, to see that, wow, after all this time, you're still only kind of looking at one particular map projection as a model. So yeah, that's just one person's thing, isn't it? Though, I mean, there are millions of us, and we've all got different ideas. So yeah, I must admit I was surprised, and yeah, it's not surprising that Globers pick up on this assumption that the AE map is considered an FE model, flat Earth model. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, yeah, sure, I looked at it and I thought about it, and I tried to do sun elevation calculations and this and that, but then I realised, well, looking into maps, it's like, well, okay, it's just a map projection, and you can put your centre anywhere. Again, where do you choose the centre? This is something that could be arbitrary. Where is the centre of the Earth? Okay, just looking at the chat again. Chilling Andres, Glenn Southwater is fake left. Okay. What's that? No one special, no objection to the stars moving from east to west. My query is for an explanation. Yeah, right. Your question has been answered. Okay, and you can actually prove this for yourself. Just go and do it with a fan. Go and get a fan or get a CD. Anything. Get anything circular. Start moving it around and start looking at different sections from different directions, and you'll see for yourself that simply changing your point of view, your perspective, will change its, left to right or right to left apparent orientation. Rotation, yeah. What's that, Glenn Souch? I was hoping Duffy would have the goblins riding on the outside of the plane to demonstrate conservation of momentum. INFE, the supposed movement of the Earth is not a perfect orbit. You would feel that's a good point as well. Yeah, it's supposed to be elliptical, isn't it? Yeah, so you would feel this slowing down and speeding up. Yeah, again, it just doesn't. Even what they illustrate and find out from their observations doesn't fit with those explanations. Good point, INFE. Oops, I skipped a few there. I'm just kind of... Oh, hello, we got a few... Oh, great. What do you got? Squirrel Sniper, hello. Flat Fact, hello. Steve Bowman, do the sun being south of someone in Antarctica make sense on an AE map? Again, we've just gone over that. No, it doesn't make sense on an AE map. But then, what is any map showing us? It's, and think about this. I mean, one thing if you look at what they're talking about, we've been over this before, but what Will Duffy has there in his background is he's got a globe, which you could call your globe model, and then for the FE, he's got a map, and he's saying that's your model. And it's like, no, this is just one of a gazillion possible map projections that you could create. You can go to it. There's a. I'm going to do a video about this anyway. I've been putting together some map projections, and there are hundreds of different projections. So if I got some kind of pyramid map projection, said, right, that's my Earth. It's a pyramid Earth. Well, you would just say, oh, well, that's just a map projection. Well, yeah. Same with the AE map. It's just a map projection. Yeah. And because of the way they work with the azimuths and all that thing, then again, this is the problem with the angles, yeah? Getting wider and wider. There's a limit to how far you can go and have everything lined up. I'm just looking at the chat again. All right, bit of some discussions going on there. Okay. Right, AutoHug says, to travel in a straight line, no speed is felt unless speeding up or slowing down. Right, when moving in a circle, the vector speed will constantly be felt. Think of, yeah, exactly, exactly, AutoHug, that's acceleration, right? Yeah. INFE says, Newton must not have done any mechanics. Drop parts and tools can end up 10 feet away in any direction. Under That's true. Yeah, you drop something and it's, where did that go? All right. Okay, there's some great stuff going on in the chat here. Is that us or US so far? The Globies are just butthurt because they got stuck with the model. Yeah, in a way, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because they have to defend it. Whereas us lot are saying, well, any model is possible. David Baxendale, hello. Begging the question is a logical fallacy in which an argument's premises assume the truth of the conclusion. Yeah. Okay, so arguments, and again David is saying arguments that beg the question work to obscure the actual points in controversy and can be looked at as a form of circular reasoning. Lovely, nice explanations, appreciate that, thank you very much. Yeah, that's very well put, very succinct. Fun flat fact, we put the centre where the ancient astronomers put it at 0 degrees. After all, they were the ones who did the maps. We can all learn from them. Yeah, okay. All right, great. Okay, so let me just move on with this a second. So, yeah, I think I kind of covered that anyway. So, I just, I wanted to say in connection with the whole kind of Newton argument, yeah, the strength of force and gravity. Well, the Aristotelian thinking assigned different causes to different types of motion. So remember, Newton's basically saying, apple falls on my head, that's how the planets and the whole entire universe works. I've got the answer. Ding! That, to me, that stinks of like being some kind of, trying to be some kind of guru, some kind of, demigod to say, I can measure the time it takes an apple to fall, so I have the answers to all the forces of the universe. And it's all the same thing. Yeah, the sun moves, or we according to them, we move around the sun because I can drop an apple from a tree. Yeah, or an apple might fall on my head. But the Aristotelian thinking assigned different causes to different types of motion. This is something that actually what's his name, the guy in the wheelchair pointed, Brief History of Time, he pointed out in his book, The Brief History of Time. I can't remember his. You know who I mean. Yeah, but he said that Aristotelian thinking assigned different causes to different types of motion. So yeah, the way the planets moved wasn't necessarily the same force that moves a rock down a hill, for example. Yeah, or the water in a stream. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, obviously, again, the heliocentric model assumes these big distances. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of as far as I wanted to go with that. Just to highlight those. And again, I said it's just good to get that feedback. Good to get some of. So thank you for some of the guys that have kind of contributed or added to that, because it's really good to put in the book that's coming together now. So yeah, Hawkins. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, Hawkins. Yeah. So I remember I read that on my travels when I was first in Thailand. When you're staying at the guest houses, then these books go around. So I read that twice, actually. Tried hard to understand it, but it was very difficult to. And it was, the book was very, the diagrams and things like that. It was almost like a bunch of photocopies shoved together. So the funding wasn't necessarily that great at the time. Yeah, Squirrel Sniper, I've looked into that as well. The heart-shaped map does sound interesting, does seem. Yeah, you can. Of course, the problem we have with maps is that we are bound by the limits of the land masses and things that they show us. Yeah, so this is a problem that we don't have the full picture, do we? We really don't have the full picture. So it's tough in that respect. Yeah, to really kind of come up with an alternative. Yeah. But again, remember we mentioned it recently. Crow 777. He talks about another sun possibly being there. So maybe that's what's happening down in Antarctica. There's a certain time of year when the sun splits up. Who knows? or it just, there's no reason why it can't go in a different direction or do different things. I mean, we are talking about something that is obviously, the cosmic clock in the sky. It's perfect. It keeps perfect time. Yeah, we struggle to keep perfect time, but this cosmic clock is what it is in the sky. And, it's set to do certain things at a certain time of year. Flat Fact says, when Jaren and Wisset were streaming the sun in distance around midnight last night, I could see the sun outside in the sky, not quite above my head. I'm subtropic east coast of Australia. Okay, interesting, Flat Fact. I think around the time they were live streaming, it was very early morning for me. So, yeah, the sun was kind of coming up over there for me at that time. Again, what can we say that proves about the shape of the Earth? What's that, Glenn Souch? I don't think Jaren and Whitsitt have seen 8 hours of the sun. Okay, you're talking to Professor Bell. Let alone 24 hours. Yeah, it's still getting dark, isn't it? But I remember in the UK, I mean, even in summertime in the UK, really, obviously I know it's a different time of year, but, it doesn't stay dark for very long, does it? You still get the kind of twilight. It doesn't get pitch black. So again, I mean, this seems to demonstrate a local sun. And once you're out of its light, then you're out of its light. Yeah? Andres says, Phil, they can see the night and daytime in Alaska. Why can you show us daylight from South Australia or America? David Baxendale coming up with another definition. A red herring fallacy is a form of logical fallacy or reasoning error that occurs when a misleading argument or question is presented to distract from the main issue or argument at hand. Yeah, that's a good one. I like these descriptions, actually. It's maybe worth adding something like that to the book where, it's laid out what these different things are, because, yeah, obviously you hear them in the arguments. Oh, that's a logical fallacy. And it's like, if you're new to this, then you don't quite get, well, why is he saying that and what does he actually mean? So, yeah, this is something worth pointing out. INFE, lately globies were wishing their Earth was bigger 1,000 times when 1,000,000 times, or was it 100,000 times bigger. Seeing too far on their R8K ball is a problem. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. You see, okay, Alan Nostrand says, why is it warmer in northern Denmark right now than where Jaren is? Yeah, just the sun's... Yeah, I mean, they're gonna see, if they see a 24-hour sun, or even the sun that they do see, or however long they see the sun for, it's going to be very low to the horizon. Yeah, I think it kind of is going to do a bit of a wave thing. So as far as that goes, it's very far away. It's not going anything like over their heads or anything like that. It's far away. Yeah, so yeah, what's actually happening there? Right, okay, I don't think they've seen, this is it, they're not necessarily seeing the sun, they're seeing sunlight, aren't they, INFE, a glowing area, yeah, and of course, yeah, when, there could be, I mean, for example, up north, you've got the Aurora Borealis, haven't you? You've got the Northern Lights, and so we've got the air is charged. I mean, when you've, I can't remember who kind of put this forward, but other people have talked about, or flat earthers have talked about the air, or the neon gases being charged in the air, right? So if we're talking about more of a kind of electric universe thing, then the colours that we see are these different gases in the air being lit up by, not necessarily just light, but more of a reaction, more of a frequency or vibration, yeah? Maybe, the light spreads out, maybe there's just more going on. Maybe, this light, yeah, it's not, maybe air and areas of the sky are being lit up, not because the sun is or isn't shining on those places, but the gases in the air are being energized and being given light. Yeah. Auto hoax. I've seen an image of Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter in the planetary alignment. Yeah, yeah. That's it. They're all lined up as well. The universe is flat too. Yeah. Yeah, auto hoax. That's a good point. I don't think people really grasp just how different Antarctica is from the Arctic. The temps are so much cooler. Yeah, you're right. It's not. You're not just getting the opposite effect, are you? Than what happens in the north. Yeah. That's a good point. Again, I don't know whether the light phenomena is really the same, but the temperatures, yeah. And it's all very well talking about the North Pole and Polaris, but has anyone actually been there? Is it ice? Is it water? Does anyone go there? Has anyone got a picture of looking directly up at Polaris? Yeah. That's right, Alan. They should be the same, shouldn't they? Yeah. Especially given the uniform nature of the globe, and so on. Yeah. And again, I remember looking into the tilt, the axial tilt. This is something that they, looking through school books and things like that for teaching university students or college students. And there's a question in there: has this ever been observed? It's like, well, no one's ever observed the tilt. No one's ever done this. It's just, and I'm pretty sure that this 23.5 degrees is kind of what's left over from the conversion of perspective into some kind of 2D model. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to explain, but when you take all the celestial measurements and apply them to, I did a video on it before and just playing around with that. It's like, okay, there's kind of 23 degrees left over. Yeah. But yeah, I kind of can't really explain it right now. Yeah. Without having something to illustrate it. Hello, V. Thomas. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. It's a friggin' terrarium with a planetarium stuck on top. That's what it is. Yeah. And again, when it comes to, when you think about it, it just makes sense, right? We are in an incubator for life. Yeah, this is obviously a place for nurturing life for whatever reason or whatever purpose. We have karmic implications and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, this is a place. So if you were going to have, there is no, you want to grow some plants, you want to put a baby in an incubator, you don't swing it around, you don't move it around all the time. They have to be kept in one place. And logically, you would move the light around. It's a lot easier to move a light around than it is to move the whole thing around. Yeah? Think about it. Yeah? So, in terms of creation and the logic to apply to that, once you understand, okay, we are in a creatively designed place. It's here for life to flourish. Well, it would logically be stationary, not being flung around the sun and other planets. What's that? Professor Phil Bell directed a comment at me saying the North Pole is just an ice sheet in winter about 2 meters thick. Antarctica has mountains made of rock. Okay, well, again, that's all hearsay. That's all conjecture. Have you been to the North Pole, Phil? Have you been to the South Pole and beyond? No, you haven't. Yeah. All right. Again, you can repeat all this stuff till you're blue in the face. Yeah. So again, I don't, for me, it's no biggie that people are going to Antarctica on this trip. Great. Get the observation, get the data. Cool. Go to the north as well. Get the observations, get the data. Cool. All right. As I said, at the same time, maybe some of these globers will realize that flat earthers are normal, intelligent, empathetic people. What's that for that fact? No, Phuket word. The 23.5 degrees is measured from 0 at the equator. It's 23.44 now, and right now the sun is 23. Okay, so you're talking about the declination of the So okay, I understand what you mean. Because obviously when you think about it in terms of concentric circles, and of course if the sun is doing circles or ellipses, and it's either changing size throughout the year or it's going up and down throughout the year, it's understood that the difference that you see in that elevation from the Earth is going to be 23 point whatever degrees, but again, you kind of like, you can attribute, my point is that you can attribute that to perspective based on the height or the distance. So obviously greater distance is going to create a lower elevation. So throughout the year you're going to get this difference of 23 degrees. So it's not about tilt, but it's more about in a flat Earth model, it's more about the elevation of the sun and the difference in elevation, or whether those circles are concentric or not. Yeah. Okay. Hello, David Banner. All right then. Good to see you, man. Professor Phil says people fly over the North Pole every day. Do they really? Yeah, do they really? Directly over the North Pole. Again, you can have maps and you can have GPS coordinates and all that jazz, but there might be a whole bunch of space. We're talking, there could be thousands, 10,000s, millions of square miles of extra space that we're just not made aware of. Again, this is part of the thing with the political divide. If Russia and America are at loggerheads, then of course they're going to have their flight zones which they're going to avoid for political reasons. Okay, these things always come up as a... So you might be right, Phil, but again, with all these planes and all these people going over the North Pole, has anyone actually got that picture of Polaris right above their heads? And what happens at the North Pole? What happens to compasses at the North Pole? I mean, surely if pilots are going to go into an area where compasses don't work, we've seen that down south they don't necessarily work. That's the thing. Pilots have to rely on dead reckoning. They have to go back to old school dead reckoning because they cannot rely on equipment such as compasses when they get close to the poles, or even when they are faced with these magnetic anomalies. Yeah. Well, again, Prof. Phil, you say it's just an ice sheet 2 meters thick. Yeah, maybe. That again, it's not. Yeah, it's not something that you or I can prove right now. Yeah. So why don't you just say, Phil? Okay. Yeah. When someone asks you, Phil, have you ever been there? You just say, no, I haven't. Okay. And in that sense, you could just show that you're being intellectually honest, and you admit that you cannot prove anything. But okay, you're welcome to your opinion. Everyone can have an opinion, and you can say, well, my opinion is based on this, that, and the other. Yeah. But if you had if you actually had actual proof that you'd been to exactly where the North Pole is said to be, and you looked up at the North Star, then I say, okay, all right, fair shout, Phil. Okay, I'll concede. You've been there. Yeah. But until you have, just repeating that doesn't do anything. Yeah. INFE. Moon goes over 27 degrees sometimes. Search for a declination table for the sun and the planets. Okay. Nice one. Yeah. It's something I want to get into a bit more. But yeah, again, there's an understanding that the predictions don't change. I mean, was looking into, when we first started doing this, looking at the sky, trying to find things out. Yeah, but it's like, well, what can you prove? It's all the same. It's always the same. Yeah, there's, people make predictions. That doesn't change the shape of the Earth. Hello, one man. Oh, yes, there is a fan blowing in my mic. So, well, not really, but maybe I should turn it down a bit. Well, after streaming all that time, we only just pointed it out. Yes, they use gyro compasses. Yes, Phil. And gyro compasses, again, inertial navigation relies on establishing level to start with. Yeah, and it is still, so it's still dead reckoning. Okay, yeah. So no, again, first, just ridiculous arguments, because yeah, it's understood that pilots don't rely on one single instrument. They have to rely on a multitude of instruments, right? Yeah. And that was my point. Hello, Clubvids. Okay. David Banner, I think it could be as simple as the sun's path. I'm not sure what you were referring to, David Banner, there. Yeah. I hope you're feeling a bit better. You sound like you had a nasty cough the other day, David. Hope you're all right there. Yeah. So, yeah, like you, man, I'm I think it's all good. The exposure that we're getting right now is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. It's bringing this all into the mainstream, and no matter what's seen, it is just an observation. And it's like, okay, we can tick that off as something that is seen, and carry on. Carry on. Like I was saying earlier on in the stream, David, would these guys be able to prove their assumption that the sun is 93 million miles away and 400 times the size of Earth, blah, blah, blah? Yeah, would they be able to do that? Could you really prove that we're not in a geocentric model? Yeah, I'm not even going to entertain your banter, Phil, because you just get nasty, right? And then which part of a gyro compass relies on Coriolis force? I wasn't. Oh gosh, I wasn't comparing Coriolis force and gyro compasses, for God's sake. Ugh. Yeah, they are. Oh man, yeah. Talking of autopilots, I mean, yeah, saw someone get into one of those Teslas, a new Tesla, and it's like, has no steering wheel, no pedals, just like drink holders and a screen. It's just like, I just would not feel safe or comfortable in a car. And that's the thing, isn't it, with today's generations, I suppose the younger guys, is like they're totally used to technology doing everything for them, that they are happy to get into a car that will drive them from one place to another. I just wouldn't, you cannot, you can't trust a lot of humans to drive properly. And I tell you, Teslas would not work here in Thailand. Yeah, just no way, because you got motorcycles coming down the wrong way. It's just like, that's the thing. The one reason that these cars can work for the most part in the US or whatever is because the roads are wide. The roads are very clearly defined. It is relatively easy, I would say, for the navigation system to find its way, notice traffic lights and lines on the road and things like that. Yeah. Yeah, well, this is the thing, Phil. You talk about Coriolis force, but it doesn't exist. There is no Coriolis force affecting anything on or above the Earth, you dope. Yeah, this is another one of your idiotic contradictory arguments. Yeah? You are not putting your brain in gear, your brain in gear before you engage your mouth. We just talked about, this whole thing has been about the bloody contradictions that you guys make. And you've just made another one, you dumb tit. Yeah? This is the thing. I'll tell you what, Phil, do yourself a favour. Write down every single argument that you use, yeah? And then see if you have the scientific wherewithal to actually say, oh, that's a contradiction. I'll have to choose one or the other, or kick them both out. And when you talk about Coriolis, well, then you're just, talking absolute crap because it doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. Yeah? When you watch an aircraft go off into the distance, it goes off into the distance. There's no, it's going off and sliding over because the Earth's rotating. Yeah? Ask Honeywell how a gyro compass works, yeah? And again, Phil, this is all you got. You talk about like laser lights being sent around in a compass, yeah? What about all the other stuff that goes before it, yeah? All the other presuppositions, Foucault's pendulum, this, that, and the other, yeah? It's all totally nonsense, yeah? So, this is what the flat earther does, is they compare everything that you say, and they realise that there's so many contradictions, there's more holes than a bloody sieve. Yeah, no helping him, David, you're right. Yeah, auto hoax. Coriolis is nonsense, like the Eratosthenes sticks in the ground, nonsense in a tilted ball. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just made up stuff. Interpretations. This is it. The one thing is that, all of these arguments about what you see in the sky is like any honest, intellectually honest person could say, well, okay, what we see in the sky can be interpreted in many, many different ways. That would be the most scientific, pragmatic, intelligent approach to take. Is that, well, we look in the sky and you could say this, that, the other, or you could assume this, that, and the other, yeah? But no. That's the thing. That's why all us flat earthers exist, Phil. Because you heliocentrists in your cult mentality keep repeating the same old thing, and it's so hardwired that you refuse to even be in any way remotely scientific about it. Yeah? So again, Phil, write down 20 different excuses. I wrote down 8, and just with 8 or 9 so-called facts and reasons that we believe we live on a globe from official sources, there's at least 2 or 3 contradictions in those. Yeah? So go ahead, Phil, write down 10 or 20 of your favourite excuses and reasons that you give to your arguments, yeah? And then see if you can be intellectually honest and scientific in your approach in evaluating whether you actually see any contradictions in your own bloody narrative. Yeah? One man and his detector. Hello. Have you ever thought about the North Pole is water surrounded by land and the South Pole is land? So no, I haven't. I like that. North Pole is water surrounded by land and the South Pole. Oh, wow. I'd never thought about it like that. I love it. That's really cool. Nice one. So all the land that we know of on our maps is like a circle around the North Pole. Is that what you're saying? And then, or, okay. I'll think about that one. That'd be a good one. Yeah. That's right, Auto Hoax. No snipers trained for Coriolis effect. When you were in the Navy in the 1990s, all the way back to Iowa battleships, 16-inch guns, no Coriolis ever will be mentioned in the manuals. Interesting, brilliant. So there you go, Phil. All right, take it from a man who has actually got practical experience in the real world instead of your manuals. Yeah, okay. There you go. Auto Hoax has given you the answer. All right. Oh, toilets in Australia. Oh, I forgot about that, yeah. Oh, dear. Yeah. And again, Phil, usually, how many different pieces of bollocks are you going to put across here, Phil? Explain on flat Earth why stars are not circling horizontally across your field of view. Well, I'll tell you what, Phil, when I look up at the stars, they do come they come across the sky, they come across in a line, but when I look south, I do see it kind of going across like that, yeah? I don't see the center of rotation like you do with Polaris, okay? That's something I talking to a friend of mine, Leon, the other day, yeah? For example, you can see the north, Polaris, and you can see everything circling around Polaris, right? But when you look south, so I can see Polaris from Phuket. But I look south, I can't, when you see any kind of rotation south, it's a very wide arc. Yeah, so although I can see the alleged center of rotation in the north, and I am pretty much very close to the equator. Looking south, I would have to go a lot greater distance to see the center of rotation in the south. So something's off there. I'm pretty much on the equator, which would put me pretty much in the middle. Yeah? But so the distance to the North Star for me is shorter than it is to the Southern Star. But I'm halfway between the poles. Okay? So something's not quite right there. Couldn't say what. I got no explanation. Yeah? Screw your explanations. Why should we provide explanations when we're just saying we don't really know? Yeah? That's the thing. The globe has a load of explanations which contradict each other, but so they think that you've got to come up with alternative, better explanations. Well, yeah, we can come up with explanations. It doesn't mean they're right. But that's the thing. We take that pragmatic, neutral approach, the middle path. That's right, Scott Lev Realm. Hello there. If you shoot at long distance, you don't calculate for the fake movement of the Earth below you. Yeah. No pilots, no missiles, nothing, ever. David Baxendale. Correlation is not causation. Yes, that's what this is basically all based on. Let's start with probably the most important fallacy to understand. The one you and I and everyone we know fucks up with abandon. Correlation is not... Absolutely, yes. Thank you. Well said, David. It's totally true. This is the whole point of this. Yeah, you know. And, yeah, again, you know, the Globies think they're smart because they've got this, what's it called? The way of thinking, deductive reasoning. Yeah? No one ever measured curvature, yeah, but there's just deductive reasoning used to say, well, you can't see the stars because of Earth curve, or the sun does this over there because of Earth curve, yeah, that's right. And the tides as well. Yeah, okay, there is some kind of relationship between the tides and the sun and the moon. What is that relationship exactly? Dunno, yeah. Is one causing the other? Who knows, yeah. V. Thomas, oh no, the profane have arrived in chat. Uncommon sense, hello there. Yeah, that's right. Explain all of existence right now. Yeah, everything. Tell me everything. I want to know. Yeah. I know, yeah. Well, this is it, isn't it, David? You know, they, you know, it's, and Phil, Professor Phil, it's people like you that keep flat earthers going. We just see all the crap that you come out with and we think, you're teaching our kids to be confused. You know, this is the kind of insanity that we're trying to stop. Spinning balls in a vacuum that can't exist. Yeah? And all these excuses, just like, you know, it's like some kid caught in the act in the cookie jar. And then, oh, but it wasn't me, you know. Yeah, when one of my kids kind of started adopting that kind of, you know, blame someone else attitude, he quickly got told, no, that's not the way we do things, yeah? You accept responsibility, yeah? Well, thank you for the hearts. Yeah. V. Thomas, the moon's my teacher and I'm her student. Nice one, yeah. And of course, yeah, this is the thing, you know, when you see how the feminine has such an intrinsic relationship with the moon, it's not just a lump of rock up there, is it, that happens to be going around. It's something very, very important. It's something intrinsic to our existence. Yeah? And, you know, my wife's Thai and she grew up in the country, and for them the moon is again part of the clock. And when I was doing my moonlight experiments to see if moonlight's cold, she already knew that. She said, yeah, of course the moonlight's cold. She knows that it's colder on a full moon night. Yeah, and of course Thailand is somewhere where you can do that because obviously it's warmer anyway. So you notice that it's colder. Obviously, you're trying to measure the moon temperature in a cold place. It's kind of challenging, but you do it in a warm country where even at night when the sun's gone, it's still 70, 80 degrees. So when it's a full moon, it's slightly colder. Yeah. Scott Level Realm, I like how everyone is rising in conscious God is making us think better and inner stand. Inner stand, yes. Nice one. I like your use of words there. Scott level realm. Carlos Sanchez, hello. Well, thank you. Spreading the big love too. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Glenn Souch, fluctuations in lunar tides from day to day throughout the month directly coincide with moon phases. Yeah. Again, what's actually happening? Yeah. And could it be something to do with, you know, the sun and moon getting closer together as you know, or further apart? There's whatever. There's so many things you could put into the mix, right? Anyway, yeah, this has been good. It's really nice to have all these discussions here, and it's good to catch up. So I'm gonna wrap it up now, pretty much. I'm still trying to work out how the best way to get the chat showing on this OBS. I got to mess around. I've made it bigger, but it's still not very clear. I'm not sure what's actually the problem there. I got it on. Okay, you need to turn the quality up. I don't know. Yeah, so I've got to work on that. So, yeah. Okay, no one special. Sorry, I'll see what you say there. I would like to reiterate to everyone that I'm not advocating for either global flat Earth. I'm simply asking for explanations for the things that I observe and experience. Yeah, fair enough. I think that's how we all started out. And it's not like, you know, yeah, I think that's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's where we all are, man. I mean, again, if someone was able to come up with a measurement, a method for measuring curvature, and we were able to try it out all over the Earth, I'd go for it. I would willingly participate in a curvature measurement. Yeah. But the thing is, the Globers. It's funny because they're already splurged their wad on this final experiment. They're calling this the final experiment. And at the same time, they're saying, oh, it's impossible to measure curvature. So you're trying to tell me that while you can do all these things, you can measure these things with absolute accuracy, the size of the sun and the distance to something millions of miles away, you cannot measure the difference between horizontal and curved over just 6 to 8 miles to show a 6-foot difference? You're trying to tell me that you can't measure that? You're all full of crap. Yeah? So they splurged their wad. This is it. Game over for the Globies. Yeah? They've knackered themselves out now. They've thrown everything at us. And their final thing is not a measure of curvature, just excuses that they cannot measure it. And slander. They're done. After this, it's done. Yeah? Well, regardless of what they see in Antarctica. Yeah? So good. Get it out of the way. Get it over and done with. Yeah? And the rest of us will carry on proving that you can never measure curvature because it doesn't exist. And they've already said, oh, it's impossible to measure curvature. So they've globed themselves in. They've boxed themselves in. Luke, 2343. Wife and I are popping down to Phuket for 4 days next week. Be great to catch up for some flat earth musings and sun setting observations. By the way, what's Kamala Beach? Ah, good. Well, if you're staying in Kamala Beach, good place to go. Yeah, much better than Patong. So good choice there. Kamala's not too far from me. I know a restaurant owner down there, or she has a small resort. I do her website and stuff like that. So get in touch, Luke. I got my email address in my channel details. Yeah, maybe we can meet up. Why not? If you come all this way. Yeah. All right. And then I got WhatsApp, Skype, Line. Okay. We'll find a way. Yeah. Okay. Alan, you retired at 40. Nice one. I'm 50 plus and I'm nowhere near retiring yet. Yeah. Glenn Souch, ironically, electrical potential of moon's surface varies from phase to phase. Does it? I didn't know that. Wow. Man, this is what I love about all this. Is all, you know, when people come up with all these things they found out. I had no idea about that, Glenn. Nice one. Yes, Scott, Lev Realm, shout out to all the awesome people that are thinking outside the ball. Yes. Uncommon sense. So no more working on space station sewers then. Phyllis. All right. Okay, you got to go, Andres. Okay. So whoa. Okay. So yeah, lots still going. Lots in the chat. Oh, you're right. Yes, V. Thomas. There's no money in measuring curvature. That's why they won't attempt it. Well, there's only embarrassment as well. Total embarrassment. Yeah. Because yeah. So, and it's again, all they do is they throw it back as, oh, well, you're stupid if you don't get it. Is that no, but you're telling me you can't measure the difference between horizontal and curved? That's ridiculous. Yeah, if you can't do that, then you can't fly anywhere. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, just shows. All right, David says, and if they become criminals, then they'll end up in prison and ruin their lives. Therefore, allowing teenagers to drink alcohol will ruin their lives. Auto hoax on a ball, every direction is down from the perspective of the observer. How could the... Yes, exactly. Again, real world examples. Come back down to Earth, look at Earth, and it sounds crazy. You know, when you say stuff like that to people, they just, it doesn't... they're like, oh, that's crazy. Why are you saying such stupid stuff? It's always your model. That's what you got to assume in your model. Yeah, absolutely right. Cub vids. That is why they have to live live marathon right now on Antarctica, pushing the narrative. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You already live in heaven. Why retire? Yeah, well, yeah. It's good to be here, but sometimes I often want to return home as well. Yeah. But I'm always going to be a foreigner in a foreign land. The Thais are wonderful people. They're great. But you know, there's a lot of danger on the roads and in other places, and the same time, their system is very xenophobic. I have to renew my visa every so often. It's a pain in the bum. Can't really get citizenship, and even if you do, you're still not a fully fledged citizen. You know, it's crazy when I look at the UK and like. It's easier. Basically, it's easier to turn up in the UK without a passport on a rubber dinghy and get everything provided for than for me to get a legit visa for my wife. That's more difficult. Yeah. Don't get any help. You know, you go back to England and it's like, well, if I wanted to get child support and things like that, I'd have to wait 6 months. Yeah. So yeah, good one, Luke. Yeah, shoot me an email. Yeah, it would be good. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, good. You're not going to Baton. Speak Russian. You don't speak Russian. Yeah, the Russians have taken over here. Yeah. All right, look, I'm going to love you and leave you. Okay, I hope you have a great weekend. More videos coming soon. Really appreciate all the support. This is fantastic. We're going great guns. And yeah, books on the way. And yeah, if you do want to join up, you can join as a Patreon for free. Any support is of course welcome. Yeah, I do have other jobs. I don't rely on YouTube, but obviously every little bit helps, and that's, you know, it's just great to be doing something where hopefully we are doing something that helps other people. Yeah, use their discernment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course of course it's entertainment for you guys. Yeah, of course it's entertainment. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, this is great. Really appreciate all coming on. And I'm very, very sorry if you've seen too many ads. I just kind of went with I told YouTube to do conservative ads, but I think there've been far too many ads. I just prefer to keep them either side of the stream so we can keep things, you know, going. So apologies for that. All right. So thank you very much to everyone for coming in, and have yourselves a great weekend. Yeah. Sawadee Cup from Phuket. Take care.